Hello and welcome to A New Way Forward. We're so thankful to have you together. March 13th of last year, 2020, was definitely a trying time for all of us. At that point, we came together, big picture learning, altitude, education reimagined, thrively, and getting smart, to say how might we move forward together. I'm Jorah Pelding. I'm now head of education at Thrively, and we can't thank you enough because it is a new way forward. If you join us, please share this hashtag, A New Way Forward, because we have lots in store for you today. I want to give a little bit of context specifically around A New Way Forward. It's about learner-centered education, really looking at the heart of knowledge, skills, and dispositions. What we mean by knowledge is that ability to know something or someone. So you have that knowledge of self, the knowledge of your content, and the knowledge of the world. Skills is that capacity, those durable skills, the capacity to apply that knowledge with collaboration, communication, creativity. And the disposition, the grit, the perseverance, that goal setting that allows all those to come together. That's what equates to learner-centered. Our friends at Education Reimagined gave us this construct so that we have a singular language that we can enjoy. Competency-based learning, personalized, relevant, it's open-walled, socially embedded, and learner-centered. This is what we're hoping for, that when it's socially embedded, we feel that we have belonging. Agency is the capacity to articulate our needs. That open-walled education learning happens anywhere, that it's personal, relevant, and contextual to our interests, and that it's competency-based. We also have our friends that have shown us even deeper work. Caleb Rashad, so big shout out to you, for the Center for Love and Justice. Thinking about that dialogue we need to engage our students in, the democratization of our learning experiences, that we have always an invitation to humanize the learning experience, that students feel belonging, and that it's critical that we have students with their identity, and lastly, that place of innovation. And when that happens, that learner-centered experience, we have change makers, like Dakota, a 10-year-old student who wasn't getting enough Black history. So what did she do? She started her own class. And that's what happens in A New Way Forward, where we have these experiences that students can now showcase across that space. So I'd like to share with you a little bit from our own students who have been sharing lessons learned. And so if you'd be so kind, let me share this video with you.
Even though this is a terrible time to be in, it also brought out a lot of good teaching resources and created almost a community within teachers and within students to be like, hey, everybody, are y'all good? Are y'all okay? Like, it definitely bonded me closer to kids in my class. And it's like, are you okay? Because I'm losing my mind. And it's kind of almost trauma bonded us in like some strange way.
From my middle school to like my high school, I feel like I went from a traditional school to like a, learner centered school. So I feel like a lot of traditional schools, they focus on like the majority instead of the minority. Learner centered schools, I feel like they like, more listen to their students. They listen to how they need to learn. Like they would always make the lessons interesting. And the fact that we learned about the Bronx, that was really like something that we could say was like something personal to us. Because, even if the student doesn't live in the Bronx, they still have some kind of connection to the Bronx. So I feel like it was really the fact that they focused on what would interest us instead of anything else.
Something new that I've kind of seen that my advisor has been doing with my class is letting us create our own Google Classrooms and put in our own assignments with our own due dates. And I find that a little bit more motivational because I get to do like the assignments that I feel passionate about, and I get to do things that I feel more interested about career-wise and educational-wise.
The old-fashioned way of teaching things, breaking the mold of that conventional experience of what school should and shouldn't be. It should break the boundaries that we have limited it before. We limited it to face to face, just a curriculum that doesn't fluctuate, changes every couple 10 years. So many things were opened up to kids who didn't have the resources before. So when teachers needed to go online to a computer, these kids got a whole new world of resources that their low income household wouldn't have had before.
We have our different kind of ways. Like, some of us in classes, like especially learning about the Bronx unit, a lot of us would write essays about it, and others would like prefer to like write, make graphs, like, oh, this is the density and show it in the graph. And a lot of other of us would just like to like make bullet points. So I feel like that really was like something that like really like got to me, because it's like, wow, like I have these many different options. Like if I wanted to, I could just make a graph, or if I wanted to, I could just use bullet points. Or me, I'm more so of the essay kind of student. But it was just the fact that we had those options that was like, yeah, wow.
Having 5 different tests a week, like that was a lot to handle, because I would get like concepts mixed up. So it could be like a science test, but all I could think of in my mind was like, oh, I got a math test later, like I have to do that. Or I could have like a reading test and I'd be like thinking about science or something. So having to do a lot of big things at once, or even like having a bunch of homework per day, it's like you can get so much stuff mixed up and have different subjects and fail your homework because you mess up because you think that your brain is telling you this, but it's really this.
So thinking about it, it will be like, homework, you know? I saw something that I will say, like, if they make us, not us, but people in general, if they make it like do something like that they can learn for the future, that it can be useful and not use homework, not a lot of homework. Yeah, I think that can be better.
Like kind of take some of that stress off of kids, because I feel like if they did, then more students would be more active in class. They would turn in their homework more. They would do better on their tests. They would actually study instead of having all this stress piled on them that's making them not want to do all their work. I've done a lot more doing my own self-paced stuff and doing what I actually enjoy doing and not having a ton of stress on me than I did back at a normal school.
When the school year started, like even in the pandemic, we was going to the school and like learning about the environment, going to like, the park, tasting the water, taking care of the plants, the environment. So that's something very interesting that we did over the pandemic.
Because I feel like I'm a more hands-on learner. So this whole online learning, it was difficult for me at first because I need to be like there in person, like feeling and seeing it from my eyes rather than just listening to what people have to say.
In my class, we went to the Bronx River. They always say the water is dirty. So something that we did as a class was testing the water, like the salinity, turbidity, and all that. So we take the water, and it was very healthy, you know, because we always see people taking care of it, cleaning it. So that's something very good that I did, and I was learning about it too.
A community, like it's more of a community, not just a very boring old school, like you go to class and you don't really have that connection with your teachers, whereas here you build a connection with your teachers and it's more like a family instead of just like students and teachers.
So like when you learning a new language, there's always people that make you feel insecure and stuff. So when I first joined Fanny Lou, everyone was so friendly, even the teachers, and they always they always was teaching me some new ways to learn English, giving me suggestions. Even the people in there, like they all friendly, and supportive. That's something that make me like learn more.
I think that teachers should really get to know us. I feel like us like having that relationship with our teachers where we can trust them and like talk to them, and if we ever need anything, to let them know like, hey, I need help with this, or hey, can you help me with that, or whatever. And then actually like sitting there and actually like listening to us and helping us and everything. I think it would make us feel better, because us having that connection, like having that trust in adults, really helps us get through everything.
I know the pandemic is putting everybody through a lot, and it's changing how we think about things But going back to the way they were with 30 kids in a classroom and just one teacher handling the stress of grading and all that, I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to how the classroom can be reimagined and reshaped. And I feel like instead of shutting that out, it should be, hey, what else can we do?
The fact that it's really learner centered. Like, you know, some schools say it's learner centered and that's just their title. The fact that like Fannie Lou actually like lives up to that, it's like, wow. Like I obviously chose the right high school. And also I feel like it's so helpful for us learners because like I said, a lot of us don't find interest in most of the like lessons that traditional schools give.
That things that we already know that they're not gonna be useful for the future. You know what I'm saying?
When things happen and it comes to terms that, hey, this isn't working out no more, that's okay.
They focus on what would interest their students. I feel like that is really something that I want everybody to know about Fannie Lou because not only are we like a learner centered school, like we really are a learner centered school.
Breaking boundaries isn't bad. And it's almost looked like you're destroying the system. And sometimes things are broken and we don't even know it.
I would say don't underestimate your students. You may sometimes see them struggle, but deep down, let me tell you, they have a power to like just change like, your whole world.
You got it there. They have the power to change your whole world. That's learner-centered at its best. So we have our student voices there. I want to share a little bit of how do you make that happen? How do you create that learner-centered experience? So if I could go back to the slide deck here, how do you get it where a student like this can actually create the space to design her own learning experiences because she wasn't getting enough Black history? So here's an example. I was at a principal at Design 39 campus and we invited, this is entirely 100% free and reduced students from high school. So they came out and visited and said, how might we reimagine high school? Because we're all working tirelessly and just so thankful for all the energy that we've been giving. We've had to pivot upon pivot. And when we do this is right before the pandemic last year, put students into this idea. So what if, it's such a powerful word, what if high school was a place where, or what if kindergarten was a place where, what if? So just put that word there. And what the students do is they start to circle around that, imagining what high school could be. And you'll be flabbergasted. And it breaks my heart every time I see some of these things what kids write. It doesn't feel like prison. It feels more like home. We're a community. That's what they want. That's what they're looking for. And when students, not that they don't have a voice, they have a voice. Students have a voice. We just need to step back so they can step up. And when we allow that conversation to happen, magic is created. Like statements like this, imagine if high school is a place where you could be yourself, to apply your skills in an environment where you feel safe to fail and you can get the help that you need. And when that happens, there's a beautiful outcome. They leave like this in partnerships in a family. And so that's what I encourage us to do is imagine if a new way forward, learner-centered, giving our students that space to have that voice, to showcase their awesome learning experiences, because that's the skills that they're going to need in a new way forward that's filled with ambiguity. And we're going to hear right now from Josh Frazier Sparks. He's a Kentucky native. He's a proven thought leader and change agent. He was selected for the 2008 Teach for America New Mexico Corps, where he taught middle school science to a diverse, economically underserved population. Later, Josh returned to Kentucky and became an executive director of Teach for America. Through his efforts, Kentucky created a permanent pathway to non-traditional teacher certification with a dedication and funding stream. Now living in Northwest Arkansas, Josh is a leader at the Walmart Foundation, where he co-manages the company's retail opportunity portfolio. His work focuses on improving skill acquisition and mobility for the incumbent frontline service sector workers. So let me share with you Josh Frazier's video, if I can load that up for us. Sorry about that. All right, ready to go here. It was stuck in the screen there. Josh Frazier Sparks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Josh Frazier Sparks, and I'm a senior manager at Walmart.org, which is the philanthropy of Walmart and the Walmart Foundation. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be spending just a little bit of time today with you all. In my current role at Walmart, we focus on upskilling. And how do we create clearer, better, more efficient, more cost-effective, and more relevant pathways to work for entry-level working adults? And when I wake up every morning, I think about what can I do in my seat to make sure that anyone who wants to advance in their career can, and they can do it in the way that works best for them. So when Devin and Joe invited me to speak with you today, I knew I had to say yes, because you are my people, and I am absolutely thrilled to be able to spend time with you. Before I jump in, I want to talk about how I see the world, because I think the way we move throughout the world, the way we see the world, our world views, whatever you want to call it, is very important to define up front. And so I want to share 3 things with you that I deeply believe in. And I'm happy to engage in conversations around, do you believe in them too, or are they wrong? Because I think that's where the magic happens. But first, I deeply believe in multiple pathways. There is no one way to success. And what I mean by that is a learner may want to go to college. That might be the best pathway for them. And when I entered education 13 years ago, that was the pathway that I really pushed on my students. And looking back, that was a mistake. Because there are other pathways. Students might want to enter into a short-term credentialing program. A student might want to enter into a work-based learning and apprenticeship. We should never pigeonhole our students, nor should we define success in one narrow route, such as college. I deeply believe in them, and I think that's one of the most equitable to ensure people have what they need to advance in their careers, and if they advance careers, they gain economic mobility. 2, learning can happen anywhere. Learning could happen in a traditional classroom. Learning could happen in a traditional brick and mortar college campus, but learning can happen through volunteerism. Learning can happen on the job as one is performing the task or duty that they're assigned. And so I deeply believe that learning can happen anywhere, and that learning needs to be very so that they can eventually have a digital backpack to carry with them throughout the world that really tries to mesh the demand side of labor. What do employers need? What are the skills employers are looking for with the person? Does this person have the skills? And if not, it creates a more transparent pathway than we have today between where you're at and where you want to get to. So learning can happen anywhere. It should carry currency, period. And then 3, and I think this might be the most important one, is learning is a journey, not a destination. And when I was in the classroom teaching 8th grade science in New Mexico, the rallying cry in the 8th grade was to pass the NIMSPA, be proficient. And if you are proficient, then great, you're going to be prepared for the next step. But what I realized was proficiency can be dangerous. Proficiency is all one focuses on. And so I think we need to move away from, you need to pass a test, you need to get a high school degree, you need to earn a meaningful credential. Those are all great milestones and they have to happen. But if that is the destination, students are not going to be set up for success in the changing nature of work. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So part of this is technical. Do we have the systems to make these things true? And then part of this is a mindset shift. Are we enabling our students to think differently about how education is going to look throughout the continuity of their lives? And so that's how I move through the world now, and that's how I see the world now. And I'll jump into what I think now. And to be honest with you, I have not always seen the world this way. As I shared with you earlier, when I entered the classroom in New Mexico, proficiency was it. I felt so much fulfillment when on Monday I rolled out the plan for the week. The students knew the objectives that we were learning. And then on Friday, I administered a CBM, a curriculum-based measure, otherwise known as a quiz. And after I graded those and the proficiency was positive, 90% on average or better, I felt a strong sense of fulfillment. I was like, my students mastered this content, and I can prove it based upon these test results that look really nice in a spreadsheet that I had to deliver to my administration every week. But I realized proficiency alone is dangerous. And so here's my example. As a first-year teacher, one of the buzzwords was cooperative learning, also otherwise known as putting students into groups and letting them work. And so upon advice, I created this lesson plan where it really relied upon the students to work together to complete it. And I can't remember the specifics. This was 13, 14 years ago, but it was something around, graduated cylinders, measuring stuff, talking about density and mass, something like that. And when I put them into groups, I was like, here's the worksheet, read through it, and then your group will collectively turn it in at the end of class. You can imagine how that turned out. As I was walking around, observing, listening into the conversations, 1 to 2 students in every group, they were actively trying to get the work done. And then you had 1 to 2 students in the group who were either disengaged or who were actively trying to disengage the people actively trying to get the work done. And what I realized, I was just sitting there thinking, what am I preparing students for? And if it is for work, then what they're doing right now will not cut it. If students showed up to work and acted like this in a group, behaved this way in a group, they would be fired. And when I had that realization, something snapped and I'm like, oh, making sure my students can pass a test is not equipping them with the skills necessary to navigate across lines of difference, to deal with conflict, to move throughout their lives with a lot of ambiguity because things are rarely clear, and to move across that ambiguity with agency, knowing how to deal with it. And so in that very moment, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get through today, but this is not gonna happen again. And so moving forward, I worked with my students to determine what are those skills that are necessary for them regardless of the classroom that they're in. And some might call them soft skills, but I do not believe they're soft at all. I think there's an emerging nomenclature. Some might call these durable skills. Some might call them 21st century skills. But what they are skills that will ensure success no matter the context in which a student finds themselves. And so I worked to define those skills with my students. We talked about what success looks like. And then every time we had cooperative learning exercises, we paused at the end to reflect, to self-evaluate, and then they received my evaluation. And so by the end of that school year, students knew what it looked like to communicate effectively, to disagree positively, to write things in a way where other people are going to understand them. They knew teamwork, they knew collaboration, they could define that. They could understand, given their personal assets, how they showed up in all of those different spaces. And so that was very important for me. And so given all of that, I think it's our job to move from a state that focuses on testing to focusing on a state where content really matters, but content is not the end all be all. What is the end all be all is ensuring our students are ready and prepared to navigate the world in whatever way they want to. And so going along with the theme for this conference, which is start, stop, and continue, I'm gonna leave you with a couple of nuggets. One nugget is stop thinking that standards and content are enough. You know, I think about my own journey. I was a biology major, and post graduating college, I'm not actually sure I've used most of the stuff I've learned, even as a middle school science teacher. But what I have remembered is how to find the information, how to talk about it, how to work with others to get to a solution. And those things are the things that will be enduring. And so I would say stop thinking content's enough and start thinking that we have to equip our students with something greater than just content or passing a test for proficiency. I would also say we have to start helping our students see the bigger picture. The bigger picture here, you know, for me, getting to high school, getting to college, those were all small milestones. But the bigger picture for me was to make sure I could have agency and move throughout the world however I wanted. And I think we have to start really helping our students understand that education is not a destination. And if it is, they're going to be left behind in the future of work. And I'll give you an example. Here at Walmart, we have been on a digital transformation journey for about 5 years, ensuring that our associates have the digital skills necessary to fulfill online grocery orders, to deliver those to cars, to make sure that when we rolled out delivery to door, that was ready to go. And what we saw when the pandemic hit was we actually had to ramp up a whole lot of those things very quickly. We had to expand to more stores. We had to get into more locations. And to do that, we had to make sure our associates also had the skills to execute. And so 5 years ago, Walmart made a significant investment in skilling and wages for our associates. And we're still on that journey. But what we realized is we needed a rapid way to level set. What are the skills necessary to be effective? But then to rapidly deploy change management throughout our organization. And so when COVID hit and we had to make changes, we had the learning infrastructure available to deploy to almost 1.2 million associates within 2 weeks any change management effort that had to occur, and that was based in skills. And so while Walmart was doing a great job of teaching the technical, you know, some of those soft and durable skills, employers expect that people have. And so I think it's imperative for K through 12 educators to make sure that we're preparing students for that. And then, you know, you all are my people, like I said. And so I think if I were you, I would continue loving your students as individuals. Being and teaching is a huge privilege and a huge responsibility and a moral imperative for equipping the world with the people who we need in the future. And so continue to love your kids with a whole lot of love for them. And always make sure you see your students as people first and learners. And do not see them as someone who needs to take a test to get to proficiency. And so that's kind of my journey. I started strong on students just need to master content, and quickly throughout the rest of my 14-year career, moving from K through 12 into workforce development, to say, gosh, content's great, but we actually need students who know how to navigate the complexity and ambiguity of the world. And one way to do that is to make sure they have the skills to thrive. Problem solving, collaborative, teamwork, all of those skills. And so if there's one thing that you take away from this, take away that skills matter, and skills that are relevant to whatever students want to do in their future matters. And so thank you for coming. It has been such a pleasure, such a privilege to be here with you. And I hope you have a great rest of your time at this conference today.
So thankful to have Josh Frazier Sparks speak with us. We're now at 12:30, where you get to go into your breakout spaces, where you can really think about what we should stop doing, start doing, and keep doing. So I'll put into the room here, what we're going to be looking at. So if you don't have this, take a peek here. We'll have this New Way Forward sessions. So let me grab the right one here. All right. So inside of this, I'll put the link in the chat. It'll have a Padlet wall. It'll have learning without limits, finding purpose, and muddling through ambiguity, learner-centered, and difference making. So we hopefully that you can join in one of those. Once you come to this Padlet, you can click directly onto the Zoom link and that'll take you into that room. So I'll put that link into the chat. And we really, really thank you for being here today. A new way forward. It takes all of us. It takes a community. And we truly are honored to be with you. Thank you so much. And we can make a difference.